Hey everyone, welcome back to another video for ICM, the Python version. In this video, we're going to continue talking about functions that return values, but now we're specifically going to focus on non-processing applications. So previously in the last video, we saw that we could use functions that return something to the program, some piece of information or data, as opposed to making something appear on the screen, to make a really useful little function that would just return true if our mouse was on top of a shape and return false if our mouse was not on top of a shape. We're going to see more about how this is used in a full collision library that someone else has made for us in future lessons. But for now, we're just going to focus on how to practice with the logic behind making some of these functions that return values. To do this, we're going to use a website called Code Wars, and you'll notice that in the curriculum, there's this worksheet that has everything explained for you. But essentially, Code Wars is a website where you can practice your coding skills by writing discrete functions for a series of challenging prompts. So these are not part of a bigger program. Sometimes they're a little nonsensical or things that you're like, why would you need to make that? And it's mostly just about the joy of solving a puzzle and of fulfilling a challenge. Professionally, people might use these to prepare for like technical interviews or other things where they are expected to do something that is not necessarily like an applied product. So we're going to start out on Code Wars, and I do just want to preference that this is an optional lesson, but I really advise it. I think it's a good practice for everybody, including students who are new to coding and really need the extra practice. And you'll notice that on this worksheet, there is a whole class example, which we can click on right here, and it is going to open up for us the Code Wars website and specifically this little drill. You probably do not have a Code Wars account yet, so if the link did not take you to a page that looks like this, you may need to sign up. You can see that I am already logged into my profile in the top corner. When you sign up, it's going to ask you what language you are working in, and for the purpose of this course, you are working in Python. If you're doing this for another course, or if you work in other languages, you would select other languages. Once you are signed up and you've opened this link, you're going to see a few things about the Code Wars page. This is not a learning management system. It is not something that is going to collect answers for a teacher, which is why this worksheet has space to put your code. It has on the left side a little challenge. On the right side, it has a place to code, and it has this thing called sample test, which is the coolest thing about Code Wars. You're going to write some code, you're going to test it, and it is going to run the test and tell you if you passed or if you failed. If you failed, that means something is wrong with your program where it does not run as expected every single time. And if you passed, everything went perfectly. So in this particular sample, you're writing code to control a traffic light, and you want to make sure that the light is going to change from green to yellow to red. So what needs to happen is the function is going to take in a string, remember that's a word in quotes, of whatever the current light is. And you'll notice this right now is just a parameter that's getting filled in, because that is going to be subbed in given the test case. So we don't necessarily know what it's going to give us, but we know whatever current is, we need to react accordingly. So if it is green, then I need to return yellow. My light needs to go from green to yellow to red. So all of my code, I'm going to start typing inside this function, and I'm going to start with a conditional, because what I want to have happen is if my current light is green, then I want to return yellow. That's what I want to send back to the program. Now I can have other elifs here. So elif, my current light is yellow, I know the next thing that needs to come is red, so I'm going to have a return statement that returns red. Now notice this is not like a processing function where something is happening on the screen. We're not changing a variable value to make it true in a program. But we are returning these values, and when if this was run in a program, the return value, yellow for example, might trigger something else to happen in the program. Now I am not quite done here. I'm going to put an elif. If my current is red, then I need my light to switch to green. So this is one function made up of a single conditional block. And at every single juncture of this conditional block, it is always checking this current value, checking to see if it is the same as something. And I already see I made a mistake. These all need to be double equal signs. You know what? I'm going to leave one as not a double equal sign just so we can see how it fails. It's comparing the two. If that value is true, if this Boolean statement comes out true, it's going to return the value below. Now let's give this a test with my typo of not having the double equal signs, which I know is an error. If I test this, you're going to see that it tells me it tried and it got an error and it immediately exited. You're also going to see that it gives me a hint about what that was. It shows me that this was my error line, and it tells me syntax error, invalid syntax. Maybe you meant, and then some examples. And I did mean that. I meant two equal signs. So now when I hit test, you're going to see that it tested 3 times. It passed every single one, and I can look and see how much time that was taking it in. We don't need to be super concerned about time right now. We're not writing anything so complicated that time is a huge concern to us. So right now this is fine. And if I were doing this in a classroom setting, I would copy all this code, I would bring it over here, and I would paste it in the box so I have it for later and so that you have it to turn it into your teacher. Since that is not what we are doing, I'm going to click the attempt button. And you're going to see that when it attempts, it's going to test many more times. Now it is testing 13 times. I passed all of them, and it will tell me I passed all the tests. At that point, if I hit submit, it is going to submit my solution to the database of solutions of many other people who have solved it, and then it will also let me see solutions other people have come up with. Some of these solutions rely on different types of code that we haven't dealt with yet. For example, this first one is like a mini condition where it's checking against things and returning things accordingly. We have not done this syntax yet, but it exists. And so while it may not be the most helpful if you haven't learned yet, it's cool to see what's out there and just be aware that there are other things from what you did and other methods for solving, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of this for now. But this is what you will be working on. And throughout this worksheet, you will see that the Code Wars activities have been pre-selected for you to include skills that you are familiar with. And they are things that build off of what we have learned already and are already linked for you and sorted by mild, medium, and spicy. Now, just so we are aware, things that are in the mild category are things that you can do now without any other things that you need to learn. You might need to do a little review, but it's stuff that we've all talked about. Things in the medium category might need like a little bit of advanced knowledge, either because you need to remember something from a different subject area, like a math class, or because you need to use something, there's something that could help you, like a list, which we haven't gotten to yet, but you could probably pick up pretty quickly on your own. This gives you an example of a method you should use. There's like one thing you might need to learn in the medium category. In the spicy category, you might need to learn more than one thing, or the thing you need to learn might be a little difficult. So that is why they are considered spicy. I would encourage you to work on this. You do not need to complete it in one sitting. You might want to try some now, and when you get to a point where you're stumped, just put a pin in it and come back to it later once your skills have advanced a little bit more. Again, I think this is wonderful practice. It'll get your brain thinking computationally, and it's a great way to test your skills as a programmer. I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye.